39 people are dead and 27 have been injured after a fire broke out at a migrant detention center along the U.S.-Mexico border in Mexico, officials report. Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador said authorities believe the Tuesday fire was caused by a protest started by some of the migrants detained in the center after they believe they found out they would be deported. Now, according to Mexican Attorney General's office, none of the civil servants or the security guards took any action to open the door to free the migrants who were trapped inside the cells.
So here's a clip of the moment that the center caught fire. It has no sound, but the BBC did verify the footage through reverse searching the thumbnail. Anthony Gonzalez, a Venezuelan migrant who was held at the facility last week, said he finds it hard to believe that the migrants could have started the fire because they're behind padlocked doors and everything is taken from them before they enter, NBC writes. Now, according to Al Jazeera, Obrador said there will be, quote, no impunity for those responsible. Amnesty International is asking, how is it possible that the Mexican authorities left human beings locked up with no way to escape? Robby, this is such a horrific story and just more proof of how cruel it is to incentivize people to make this dangerous journey en masse to come to our borders when there is no legal way for them to stay here. I mean, this is, yes, whoever set this fire, these deaths are on them. But I have to say, anything that has been happening in the United States, and there has been a lot of it, encouraging people to make that journey and amass there and wait with the expectation that they're going to be allowed into this country, has some of the blood on their hands.
Yeah, but from watching that clip, I mean, the fire's raging in right by where the people are trapped in the cell, and there are guards walking by, and apparently they said they freed women and children, but they left the men in there to burn until the authorities arrived. I mean, that seems just absolutely horrible. So I mean, yes, whoever set the fire, I assume it was one of the prisoners. Obviously, that can be, we don't know. It might be hard to find that out. It's possible to smuggle in all sorts of supplies into, we know that from our own U.S. Prison system, where drugs and other contraband make it in all the time. So I assume they could have had materials to start a fire. But it's horrible. Like medieval torture to watch people being burned to death in a cell and not unlock it. So that's just really disturbing. Look, I agree with you that policies that contribute to people, these were migrants probably from South America, from elsewhere, making their way eventually to the U.S., still in Mexico. Policies that contribute to people undertaking this very, very dangerous journey are bad because people die doing it. They die out in the wilderness trying to make it across the border. They die at the hands of human smugglers, human traffickers, and it's just really bad and speaks to our need to have an immigration policy that is sane and does not cause people to take this journey.
It is just horrific. I mean, they're just so sad. These souls who were killed in this horrific way joined the 50 other people who were killed and who died in the back of a truck a year ago, joined the 3 people who died locked inside a train car, along with 50 other people who were just sitting there, had to spend days in the same train car with these dead bodies. It is absolutely horrific. And, there was a hearing with Secretary Mayorkas a couple days ago, a Senate hearing, in which it became completely clear what the administration's policy is, which is an open border policy, because Secretary Mayorkas refused to admit that there is a huge crisis on the border. And instead, he kept talking about the labor shortage. Every Democrat who asked him a question brought up the labor shortage. If you think the cartels are not watching that and thinking, well, we can supply labor. We're supplying labor. I mean, that's exactly what's happening. The Democrats talk about immigration in moral terms, but they think about it in economic terms. They see this open border as a way of easing the labor shortage that they benefit economically from and comes at the expense of the working class. It is absolutely horrific. And I'll just say this. Senator Lindsey Graham had a great idea. He pointed out that only 10% of people coming through Mexico, through the southern border illegally, who claim asylum asylum actually end up qualifying for asylum. So 90% of the people who are asking for asylum when they cross the border do not actually qualify. Right?
Well,
So he said, why don't we change the screening standard to the legal standard? And that way you would be able to send those 90% right back as soon as they showed up and claimed asylum that they don't qualify for.
I mean, if it was actually an open border, though, they wouldn't be detaining people in migrant facilities, right? They would be illegal. They could come here legally. If we had a saner policy where it was easy to enter the country legally, you wouldn't have people, crawling through the desert or being housed in facilities that get set on fire. People could come here. They could work. They could go back and forth. I don't really. I mean, you and I disagree on this. I'm not so much from an economic standpoint trying to protect American jobs. But we do have a labor shortage. It's impossible to build houses. We have a housing crunch because you can't get construction crews to do anything because we don't have enough people. So I think it would make our country wealthier and better off if people could come here and they could work, and then you wouldn't have all these horrific deaths. But we have a policy of stopping people, not letting people come through. I mean, we're not enforcing it very well. So it's weakly enforced. So people are able to sneak in under unsafe conditions. It's like the worst of both worlds.
Right. It's just open enough to allow the cartels to become billionaires by murdering people and trafficking them and sex trafficking them. So it's exactly like you said, the worst of both worlds, 100% at President Biden's feet, 100% at the feet of the Democrats who bolster this kind of approach. I just can't get over it. I mean, it's just the horror of what we are incentivizing under the guise of liberal compassion, which is actually masking, the economic benefits that accrue to the elites and to the upper classes.
Yeah, well, House Democrats have urged President Biden not to revive migrant family detention. A representative Pramila Jayapal, who is a central figure of the Judiciary Committee's immigration panel, and at least 100 other lawmakers wrote to Biden a letter saying, maintain your commitment to not detaining families and children and not return to a cruel policy of the past. These Democrats have asked the administration to invest more into case management programs that would allow migrant families to push forward their immigration cases outside of a detention center. What do you think about that?
Every time they bring this up, it's so cruel to detain families. We must allow families in. We must allow children in. The cartels hear that as, oh, great, more sex slaves. I mean, that's literally, they sit there and get high on their own virtue when actually think about it for one more second. What does it mean when you say you're not allowed to detain families? It means children get a free pass, which means cartels are completely incentivized to bring those children here, and those children get raped on the way here. Everybody knows this. So they sit there and they act like this is compassion when it is the most unbelievable cruelty you could possibly imagine.
Yeah. Totally horrific. And whoever is responsible for that fire, hope there's justice done there. And the moral shame of leaving people to burn to death in an enclosed structure, that the door's locked and you have the keys and you just casually walk past. Can't even imagine. We'll have more Rising right after this.